The Super Speedway Podcast is a Dream Bigger media production. For news, photos, show notes, and information about advertising on the podcast, visit www.thesuperspeedway.com.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Super Speedway.
Welcome to episode 55 of the Super Speedway Podcast, recorded Wednesday, April 19th, 2018. I'm your host, Eric Young, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, James Cush. James, the beginning of this podcast, there's the whole, the welcome to the Super Speedway little thing, the little snippet, and I think it's been so long since I've done it that I now don't believe that that's my voice.
Yeah, I was thinking something similar to that when it was gone. Yeah, and it kind of... Like, Eric's very peppy in there. I don't. Maybe it's just when you start talking to me, you get beat down.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I have that tendency to do that to people.
There you go. All right. Well, it is time for another episode of the Super Speedway Podcast. We are talking about, to start out, the Food City 500, or the 20. What did Junior call it this week, or Kyle called it on
the
Junior's
24
podcast?
hours of Bristol.
24 hours of Bristol. So. Had a little rain delay, cut the race short, just short of halfway on Sunday, so we ended up finishing on Monday. And speaking of Kyle Busch, makes it 2 in a row, gets the win at Bristol. I feel like somebody picked him last week to win.
Is that 2 weeks in a row?
Yeah, I think that's 2 weeks in a row. That might be the first time that's happened on the podcast.
That may be.
Yeah,
that may be.
Yeah. So KB gets the pass on Kyle Larson late in the race. Larson gets a second place finish to Kyle Busch again. Larson visibly frustrated at the end of the race, and I guess I can't blame him. One of these days he's going to get a win at Bristol, but it seems like every time he's running well, that Kyle Busch is just a little bit better.
Yeah, it's the old bump and run makes its return.
Yes.
That was good.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. It's on the notes. I got it down a little bit further, but let's talk about Bristol. I think I'm going to ask you this question, and it's a leading question because I'm going to argue with you because I know the way you're going to go. Was this the old Bristol because of stuff that they did, or was this the old Bristol because it was threatening rain through the entire event?
No, it wasn't the old Bristol, but it was good. It was better, but it wasn't the old Bristol.
Closer to the old Bristol.
Yeah.
But was it the rain or was it the track?
I think it's a little bit of both.
Say it. Tell me what you said on the text messaging. You said it was because of the rain.
I think the rain played a bigger part of it than the track itself. But
Did you watch Saturday's race, though?
I watched enough of Sunday.
There was no threat of rain on Saturday, and Saturday's race was crazy, too.
Well, what they did correctly was they finally figured out how to force the cars to the bottom.
Yes.
And that is what you want at Bristol.
Definitely.
Now, I think the impending rain led to a little bit more excitement, but I think they're on the right track. Honestly, I think they figured something out.
I think what the rain did is it made it to where the bottom groove worked, because every time rubber would get laid down on the outside and that would start to come in, it would rain and wash it off. So yeah. I think the solution to Bristol is to put the sticky stuff down on the inside and then stop the race at the quarter marks and just hose it down and dry it off.
Yeah, dude. Yeah,
and
get the water trucks from Eldora out there and spray it down.
Right. If they don't want to reconfigure it and get the banking out of there, then that's the way they got to do it. That's the solution, because the Xfinity race was pretty good. You started to see the wide line start to work its way in at the end, but that was a good, exciting race. I thought it was great all day, and you had a lot of the bumping and like you said, it's not the old Bristol because. It's close enough, though, and the old Bristol is far enough away where we've forgotten a little bit about what the old Bristol was like, and now we get a few wrecks during the race. We get a little bit of bumping, and we go like, yeah, it's back, but it's not. It's not anywhere like it used to be.
No, it's not back, and, the leaders had a bunch of trouble all day. Blaney, well, I'd say all day, but between the 2 days, Blaney had his issue. Larson spun while leading. It just kind of wadded up the field a couple of times, but yeah, having cars have to go to the bottom, that's the trick. And yeah, I mean, it was working. And if they would just bank that sucker back up 36 degrees and just force everybody else down there.
You have to do 36 degrees in quotes because it never really was 36 degrees.
Quote unquote.
But it was banked more than it is now.
Yeah, and even then they have that top groove. They shaved it off after the first couple races. But the finish was great too. The race overall was good. The finish was great. We love seeing the bump and run.
Yep.
But what's funny is everybody's excited about the racing at Bristol, but the finish, the last time Kyle had a great finish at Bristol, it was the I guess the new old
Right.
Bristol before they were doing, and it was a better finish than,
Yeah.
which is kind of fool's gold, I guess. But yeah, good racing. I hate that the two best races of the season have run on Monday,
Yeah. No kidding.
but yeah, I mean, at least got a little bit of action on Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. I liked it. I thought it was a good race. I thought it was a good mix of the old and the new. I do like the fact that top groove does come in. I think it does make the race interesting later.
Yeah. Was it Harvick that really started to make a move towards the end of the race where he was trying to make up some ground and he just went high and started kind of walloping everybody up there for a little while?
Yeah, that was good.
He figured it out a little bit there. Yeah, I mean, it was just a solid race. I mean, it's good to have a solid day, and I feel like we should expect that every week. But
Right.
I mean, good, solid racing. Guys getting after it up front, battling for the lead. It was just, I mean, I love the bump and run. That was, I will root. I mean, everybody who listens to this podcast knows I'll root for Larson over Busch, but
Right.
just to see that move, it brings back good memories of all the highlights you see about Bristol. That's what it's all about.
Right. I like too that. I mean, let's not fool around. I do enjoy the crashes. I don't want to see people get hurt. We've talked about this in the podcast. I like the fact that the whole Bristol conveyor belt was back. That you'd get car would spin and there'd be a bunch of guys that didn't have anywhere to go afterwards. And it's not so much the wreck that it creates. It's the fact that it's difficult. You don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. And that whole the old thing that I think Darrell Waltrip used to say, or whoever used to say it, the jet fighters in the gymnasium. It felt a lot more like that again.
Yeah.
This week. So
I always called it rooting around. Like a pig.
Yeah.
On a farm. Like that's what the drivers have to do at that track. They just got their noses right in the dirt, and they are just.
Come on, autoplay video. Hang on. Go ahead. Sorry.
No. Is that technical difficulty?
Freaking NASCAR in there.
Oh, put it on the board.
God.
So how many days without incident?
Well, I always mute my computer. This wasn't the one that's connected to the podcast. It's just coming over the speakers. I always mute it.
I like the fact that the truth has come out when I'm talking that Eric's off doing something else, which is fantastic.
I'm looking for my next statement because I'm anyway. I'm listening.
But never not prepared. Right. That's good.
Let's see here. I don't know where the heck we were at. What were we talking about? What I'm trying to find out. I'm trying to remember who was it on Saturday that wrecked leading the race. It was.
I didn't hear about that.
It was, who the heck was it? There was a crash in the front, and I'm trying to find it, and everybody who's listening to this is screaming at me who it is. I'm looking on NASCAR right now for the...
We were trying to survive the Michigan ice storm over the weekend, and there was no Xfinity Series racing for me. Yeah. I was scrambling, trying to get stuff in order because we literally got dumped on with an ice storm, which was the most exciting part of my weekend, which was great.
Yeah, it was a lovely weekend, definitely.
Yes.
I think it was, Priest won the race. I think it was, who's driving the 20 car? Was that Brandon Jones? No, Brandon Jones was running the 19, right? I don't know. Anyway, maybe I should just go on Racing Reference and figure it out from there. But yeah, it was a good race. I enjoyed it. Let's talk a little bit about Saturdays really quick, James. I know you didn't watch it, but Ryan Preece gets the win.
Yes.
In a part-time effort, he gets the dash for cash money.
Yep.
He's not returning for the dash for cash this weekend at Richmond. I'll tell you what, there was a lot of talk last year. I think we talked about it on the podcast. He took the money that he had, the sponsorship that he had, instead of running a bunch of races with an underfunded team that was going to struggle. He put together a package to run with Joe Gibbs and start 2 races last year. He almost won the first one and he won the second one. He comes out and wins the dash for cash at Bristol. I don't know, man. I don't see any way that this kid doesn't have a full-time ride next year. Do you?
Yeah, there's something to be said about betting on yourself, and that's totally what he did. And it could backfire on him, but he made the best of his opportunity, and it won't backfire now. He's
No.
proven himself.
No, I mean he's I mean, yes, he's driving the best equipment out there possible.
Yeah, but you got to do. There's nothing better you can do than win in that equipment. That's what he's there to do.
Christopher Bell. Jeez, why couldn't I think of his name? Okay, so Christopher Bell was leading that race, and he was running away, and there was a crash in front of him. He went to hit the brakes coming in the corner, which, by the way, Christopher Bell had already wrecked a car in practice for the same reason, brake issues, and he hit the brakes going into the turn, and the back end just came around, and he hit hard with the driver's side door into the car that had spun. Completely destroyed his car. I mean, the roof on the car was crumpled. It was quite the wreck, and bummer for him to not be able to get that done. But obviously worked out well for Ryan Preece. So.
Yes,
but yeah, it
worked out good for him.
It was Joe Gibbs out there for sure. Daniel Hemrick had a really good run too, and there was I didn't put it in the show notes. I don't know a whole lot about it, but there was a lot of controversy with him after the race because they determined that he was going to get a P1 penalty and would not be eligible for the Dash for Cash this weekend. But they realized that they'd made an error when they were checking the rules, that the rule was illegal in the Cup Series, but it wasn't illegal in the Xfinity Series, so he gets his spot back. And
yeah, that was a weird thing.
Yeah.
I read about that. I got super confused. My brain hurt, and then there
was a really good explanation of it on Sirius, and that's the only reason I can explain it here, because it had to do with the rear tires. I think it was Elton Sawyer was talking about it. The rear tires, if one tire is offline in the Cup Series, it's a penalty. But in the Xfinity Series, they both have to be offline, and only one was offline for the Xfinity car. So
weird.
Yeah,
that's weird.
Screwy.
Ryan Preece, just an interesting stat line for him. He's raced 7 races for Joe Gibbs in 2 years, and he has 7 top 10 finishes.
Nice.
And 2 wins. So that's better than his one other top 10 career finish in his 33 career starts.
The only thing he's got is that, is there a place at Joe Gibbs right now, or does he have to go somewhere else to do it? And I don't know what his contract situation is. So
his racing reference page is super empty unless you go down to the Wheel and Modifieds, where he's got a ton of data on the Wheel and Modifieds. He's a champion in that series, but yeah, he does not have a whole lot of statistics other than 5 Cup starts, and that's an impressive resume with the Joe Gibbs car. He's 15th in the standings right now, Joe. If you want to,
there you go.
Let's figure something out for the season.
Right, no kidding. I mean, yeah, why not?
Yeah, good for that guy.
So we have made it. I don't know how long because I started recording late, but or early. We've made it significantly far into this podcast, and we haven't talked about Bubba Wallace yet.
Yeah, that was awesome. That's something I wanted to talk about.
What a freaking run by Bubba Wallace. He comes up and he doesn't just lead. It wasn't just a pit strategy, I mean, tires had a little bit to do with it, but he went up there and he bumped. Who'd he pass?
KB, I think.
Was it KB? Bumped him out of the way and takes the lead and actually led some laps at Bristol in a car that just has no business being up front like that. They've got to be, A, benefiting from Bubba Wallace's talent, B, benefiting from that alliance with Richard Childress Racing. Freaking awesome to see
I think,
that 43 car up there doing that.
There's been a couple of times this season where he's really showed his driving ability. I know, Daytona, it was a great story, but this one, I know he only finished 16th.
The finishing is a bummer, but he did lead 6 laps, man.
Yeah, but you got to, and people are going to say, well, it's, you got to finish the job. He only led 6 laps. It doesn't matter. He went through the gauntlet and took the lead, and that's more than I think we expect out of Bubba Wallace at this point in his career, to show that driving talent that he really does have. He's the real deal, man.
Yeah,
I like it.
Yeah, I do too. It's been good to see him. He had success at Daytona, and obviously that's kind of false success because it's Daytona, and then he came out the couple weeks after that and struggled, and it was disappointing. I mean, again, the expectations are low, I think, but it was. By the way, it's Brad Keselowski that he passed. Because I'm watching the video right now, I had to look it up, but
man, we are not paying attention.
No, I know. We sound totally unprepared, and I feel unprepared today, totally. So, but
listen,
it's that Monday race.
Fans.
Yeah,
we're good.
Yeah, it's the Monday
we were
race.
working. For God's sakes, I mean,
we'll be a lot more professional. later in the season when we're at the track and all that
We
stuff.
have
But
kids, we
that's
have
why you
family.
listen, is because we're not as professional as those guys.
I
right?
have my list of excuses right next to my computer screen so that I can reach for them anytime I need to.
Right.
So we're doing really good.
Yeah. God, NASCAR and these autoplay videos. Holy cow. All right. Yeah. So what else? Winners and losers on the day. Definitely call out to Ryan Blaney as a winner/loser, getting caught up in the wreck. He had the car to beat probably.
Yeah, YRB was when I was watching on Sunday. He's had a couple of moments this year. He's going to win some races this year.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's going to be multiple races once they get it clicking. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't have the greatest career stats at Richmond, but I think he'll be good. And I think Bubba Wallace will probably.
He hates Richmond,
which is weird. I know, yeah, I know. But if they got things clicking and you go to those short tracks where are kind of an equalizer, hopefully that helps those guys out.
Right.
Yeah, great run for him until he crashed. I know he's mad, but it's still we should expect more from Ryan Blaney now. But it's still he's at that early stage of his career where those strong performances make a difference. They matter still.
Right. Chase Elliott gets caught up, and Martin Truex Jr. actually get caught up in that first lap, second lap accident.
Yeah, it was
the race started early, so I didn't get the beginning DVR. I didn't even see it. It was already.
Imagine being Chase Elliott having to limp around for 26 hours.
No kidding.
Oh,
I mean, that's the thing. Like Ryan Blaney, it's a bummer for him, but at least he was wrecked out before the rain delay. So
yeah, and Truex, same thing. He was limping around. Yeah, I would have rather been the Michael McDowell, Chris Buescher. Get the heck out of there.
Nothing like having to get up the next day and know you're getting into a crap car. Come on.
Yeah, I saw Cole Pern had a really funny tweet about how they're gonna come after everybody. He said we got the fenders got the fenders off it and we're coming after everybody. So that's kind of.
Oh geez, we got more issues here. Wow, all kinds of technical issues tonight. Let's see. What else? I was gonna hit on.
I think
Eric Jones.
We were talking about, Eric.
Tire issues for him.
I wanted to shout out Landon Castle stood out to me in that 00 car. Only 2 laps down and 20th place finish. That's really good. That's probably as good as that car will ever do.
Yeah.
That's a great run by Landon Castle.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Let's see. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. gets 4th place finish. We're going to talk about him a little bit later.
Probably talk about Alex Bowman too.
Yeah,
top 5. That's nice. Ricky Stenhouse and who else snuck up there? Clint Boyer, Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah, Jimmy Johnson, the 3rd place finish.
Yeah,
and he was. I mean, he wasn't in contention per se, but he was. He was
there
there
all day though. Top 5 car all day. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It didn't look. I mean, I don't think there was any point where you're like, "Holy crap, Jimmy Johnson might win this race." But he was there. You knew he was gonna.
He was trying to take advantage of being at Bristol. That's for sure. He looked pretty solid. He looked really good. I think it was on Sunday when I was, having a little bit more time, not working.
Right.
I was like, Jimmy, yeah, there he goes, taking off a little bit.
And Eric Almirola, 6th place finish. Watch for him, man. He's gonna get a win this year. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, he's. We talked about this a couple weeks ago on the podcast, but I've done a 180 on Eric Almirola. He's. I know he's in great equipment, but he's much better than I've ever given him credit for. So
yeah,
shame on me.
Kurt Busch, Brad Keselowski finished 22nd, 23rd. They both had issues, tire issues, I believe.
Trevor Bayne was in the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think didn't I text you that Trevor Bayne is probably gonna get fired?
Yeah. You weren't too keen on Trevor Bayne.
I like Trevor Bayne too. That's usually a text that you send me.
Right. Yeah, he was kind of in the way. It was rough, definitely.
Yeah, a little bit.
I'm sure he was happy that Bristol was over. So
yeah.
One more. David Reagan comes home with the 12th place finish. It's pretty good for him.
Yeah.
So
get this front row cars going.
It's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting mix for the race for sure.
Yeah, Paul Menard was up there for a while.
Yeah.
And he did Paul Menard stuff and faded away.
Nice.
I got that one in there.
I knew it was coming. As soon as I saw his name on there, it's like, yeah, I know James is going to see that one too in the final. Anything else you want to hit on for the Bristol race before we move on to some news?
I look forward to what that is going to look like in the summertime.
Yeah.
When we go under the lights.
Yeah.
I hope for
I think it's not going to be as interesting.
I hope you're wrong.
Me too.
Because if they just duplicate what they did with minus the rain delay, I think I just, when people are actually packing the grandstands for that race, that they still do come to the night race.
Right.
Because those stands were empty, which sucks. But
yeah, the weather had a lot to do with that. But yeah, it was pretty bad.
If we can get that night race crowd to see a really good show again, it would do so much it would do so much for the sport and for the track.
Definitely. All right, let's hit on some news items. We're gonna bust through these kind of quick, I think, until we get to the last one at least. Bristol announces this week that they've moved the August truck race to Thursday night instead of Wednesday night. The past several years it's been Wednesday night. The modified race is also moving to Thursday. The biggest thing here that I find interesting is I know that there's not a lot of room in the infield at Bristol, so I'm curious how they're going to shuffle transporters around, because that they used to bring in the trucks and the modified guys, and then they move them all out and then move the Xfinity and the Cup guys in. But that's not something the fans need to worry about. Who cares about that? That's the teams to deal with. That's NASCAR to deal with. So it bums me out a little bit because it's kind of cool to have that Wednesday night race, and I like the midweek race. I mean, we still get Thursday night. That's okay. But I liked it, especially it's not too far after Eldora too, which is a Wednesday night race. So I don't know. It's not a big deal. Doesn't really move the needle a whole lot, but it bums me out a little bit.
Yeah, it's not really a big deal, but I think that for people who have a ticket in hand, it's probably more added value.
Oh yeah, definitely. If you're going for the weekend,
big savings.
Right? You're going for the weekend. You're not. It's tough to do a Wednesday and then not have anything to go Thursday.
It just saves you a whole day of travel, food, everything that comes with your ticket package. So. That's a big cost saver for them. Hopefully it'll help Bristol even sell more tickets in person too. So
right, that's something I think that would help the All-Star race too. Which part of the reason that the attendance has dropped off there is because the racing's been terrible. But it also doesn't help the fact that unless you're going for the trucks too. I mean, you go for the trucks in the Cup cars, but you're seeing a short race that's not exciting. Versus the 600, if they moved it closer to the 600, people could make a whole weekend out of it. People just aren't doing spending the entire week down in Charlotte anymore like they used to. So that's a major tangent. So the other news that's big news this week, but not because I don't think anybody didn't see this coming. Ford announces they'll run the Mustang in the Cup Series next year. Like I said, we knew it was coming.
Once Chevy decided that the Camaro was coming, that was written on the wall.
Yeah, definitely.
It's kind of cool they announced it on Mustang Day, though. That's really kind of a good little promo for NASCAR.
That's cool. I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, I didn't realize Mustang had a day.
Yeah,
there you go.
There you go.
And we all learned something.
Yeah,
I did come with some knowledge today, useless knowledge, but. There you go.
I've usually got plenty of that, but usually, yeah.
I'll fill the void. You deal with the technical issues. I'll handle the useless knowledge.
There you go. Looking at the show notes when we post them, if you look at the show notes, I link to all the articles that we talk about or try to as much as possible. And it kind of looks like I just went down Jayski's page and just picked the news in the order that he had it on there, which I kind of did when I did the show notes. But the first three articles linked to Jayski. Next, we talk about Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Roush Racing announces that. Fastenal, Sunny D, and Fifth Third Bank all have signed on with the team through 2021. I don't think it's a giant deal, but sponsorship signed on to a car for a while. When I first read the headline, it looked like they'd signed Stenhouse through there too, but that's not the case. I don't know what Stenhouse's contract looks like. I doubt that Roush is getting rid of him anytime soon.
No, I wouldn't want to get rid of Ricky Stenhouse, but if I'm Ricky Stenhouse, and if I'm another team, and I'm looking for that next guy that can kind of take my team maybe to the next level, or can I think Ricky is way better than the equipment he's in.
Yeah, I agree.
He's one of those guys. Martin Truex Jr. is probably the best example. Ricky Stenhouse has a pretty similar path. He hasn't had all of the success in the Cup Series, but he had a ton of success in Xfinity.
Yeah, he came in the Cup with Roush at just the wrong time.
Yeah. If he would have come to Roush back when Kenseth and all those guys were, winning championships and things.
He's like the anti-Carl Edwards, because Carl came in at the right time.
Yeah. Carl was the guy who came in at the perfect time
and left at the perfect time.
Yeah. I know. I really like Stenhouse. I just think Stenhouse can drive with anybody.
Yeah.
If given the opportunity. He just, but where are you going to go? There's
not. That's the thing. I don't see him going anywhere. And the nice thing about this is this pretty much is secures him in that spot
Really
because
big for Roush.
these guys are signed on because of Ricky Stenhouse, so that's good for him. That means he's got a spot for the next 4 years pretty
we
easily.
Want Roush to have fully funded race cars. Yeah. We need teams like that to have that backing. So that's a really big deal for Roush.
As much as I haven't been a fan of Roush and don't really mind seeing them struggle a little bit over there, I wouldn't mind seeing them get back together and become a powerhouse again, and at least compete with these guys a little bit more. We need that.
We need more teams like that. We've got a handful of teams that dominate, and if we can get a couple more that can get in that, maybe like that Kyle Larson type where the team's not really a powerhouse, but Kyle Larson's good enough. He's winning races.
Right.
If Roush Fenway can get to that kind of level, I think that would be a huge success.
I agree. This one we're only really going to talk about it because it's our home track.
In our backyard.
Yeah. But Michigan International Speedway just last week announced, Pure Michigan announced that they would no longer be sponsoring the August Cup race at Michigan. And Consumers Energy announces this week that they will become the title sponsor for the August race at MIS.
Fantastic deal for MIS.
Yep.
It looks like they probably had that happened pretty quick.
Yeah.
So it looks like in the works for a while. So that's good.
Yep. Consumers Energy, for those who may not have that in their area, that's pretty much the main power supply here in Michigan. So
they are the reason you are able to hear this podcast.
Exactly. Yes, definitely. And they did me well this week because we did not lose power through all the ice. So
yeah, us too. Yeah, we usually I gripe at Consumers quite a bit, but they we survived the ice storm with no glitches. So
yeah.
Good stuff.
They've got quite the task up here. There's a lot of trees and stuff that hang over lines and everything like that. And
that is a thankless job being part of the Consumers Power.
I'm always impressed with how quick they get the power back on when the weather's still terrible.
There's two really thankless jobs that are fairly similar. It's Consumers and then Charter Communications.
Yeah.
Yeah, people who give us our internet and phone and TV, they have a thankless job too.
I can't say too much good about Charter. Let's move on.
Yeah, let's get on with that. Tangent.
But again, without them, this podcast wouldn't be happening either. So, I put this in the show notes. We talked about, James, you and I talked about this a little bit during the week.
Yeah, we had a little text conversation on it.
And I don't want to spend a ton of time on it because I think the next thing we're going to spend quite a bit more time on it. But I did want to chat a little bit about it. It somewhat has a NASCAR relation, and that is Red Bull Global Rallycross announces this week. I don't know if they announced, but it came out.
It came out
that they've shut down due to financial issues, unpaid bills, et cetera, et cetera. One of those is to Belle Isle here in Michigan and the state of Michigan, which owns Belle Isle. It's a state park. So first of all, for those who aren't familiar with Global Rallycross, first of all, I think it was great. It was a lot of fun to watch. James and I talked about it. It was not a marquee event to me. It was a good sideshow. I mean, I know they did them at Loudon once with the Cup cars.
Bristol.
They Cup cars there?
Bristol.
Yeah. Yeah, they did.
Yeah. They did Bristol as a standalone Global Rallycross event. I remember watching. It was the first year they had it. And Pastrana and all those guys were racing in it. So
yeah, and I think Pastrana was a large part of why it gained the popularity that it did.
Yeah, it got really popular.
It basically started as an X Games event, essentially.
Yeah,
and it moved on to its own series that included the X Games and then didn't include the X Games. And
kind of a cool little side story that I had read was it was originally supposed to be a new form of a NASCAR series.
Okay,
NASCAR was actually going to have it, and they decided to pass on it. Then took off as Red Bull Global Rallycross.
So it was fun to watch. It's basically rally cars on a closed course, which is something you don't get to see a lot. Usually when you go to watch a rally race, you go and stand for 2 hours at a spot to wait for the cars to race by you, and then you go on to the next spot. There's usually a lot of alcohol involved. At least the one that we have up here by us, it's pretty cold, so that's the only way people stay warm.
With the snowcross, rallycross.
Yeah, so the alcohol definitely keeps you warmer out there. But it was a cool event. Obviously, the NASCAR connection we talked about. Scott Speed, formerly of NASCAR, I use fame in quotes here.
Yep, Formula One.
Yes, when he was not getting banned from racing online, he was racing in Global Rallycross. So, I mean, it's a bummer to see any racing series shut down. This year, they announced that next year they were going to start running these spec cars. Which already was getting them a lot of bad press because nobody liked that idea. And then I think they were supposed to go to some new supercar the following year, and obviously that is no longer going to happen now.
Subaru was really ticked, and I think they backed out. And
yeah,
That was the end of it.
Doesn't help the financial situation when they owe, places like $60,000 from events that were held in 2015.
Yeah.
So I remember the Michigan event. It was a pretty big debacle, and I remember I was going to go. I wanted to go to it, and it was so hard to find information about how to go to it that I just bailed on it. So they did not do a good job of promoting themselves at all. And they'd have events on the schedule, and the events would just fall off for no reason, and it wasn't good. It wasn't good at all.
It's funny that a series backed by Red Bull would have so many problems.
Yeah, right.
It just doesn't, it doesn't really make sense. You think of all the things that Red Bull's been in, but
yeah, it's too bad.
Yeah, but
all right, let's talk about the thing that everybody's talking about this week, because why wouldn't we talk about it too? We are coming up on the 10th anniversary of the big, and I was going to pull the audio clip from it, and I forgot to. The 10th anniversary of the Kyle Busch Dale Jr. dump at Richmond, we'll call it. Kyle wrecking Dale Jr. coming to 3 to go. Jr. on his way to his first win with Hendrick Motorsports, ends up backed into the wall, and I think Clint Boyer won that race, didn't he? Is that who?
That was I think driving the 07 car.
Yeah. So this week, Jeff Gluck put a big story up on his website. It's linked to in our show notes. That went up on Monday, where he did the oral history of the event, talked to all the people involved in it, got some insight on it, and then Dale Jr. had Kyle Busch on his podcast this week as well, on the Dale Jr. Download, and they talked about it quite a bit. I found the podcast really interesting. I didn't finish the whole thing, James. I don't know if you did.
Yeah, I listened to the whole thing.
I was listening to it just before we started recording tonight, actually.
It sounded like they were like best friends for the most part, which was really interesting to me.
It was really interesting to hear the dynamic. We'll talk about that a little bit. I want to play a clip from the podcast, though. This is them talking about the actual moment when the accident happened. This is from the Dale Jr. Download.
Like you say, as you recount the events, you had the better short run car and I didn't, and I knew. I'm like, man, I'm gonna have my hands full, and that's why I went right to the top, because at that particular time it was
That's
hard.
Where you were going.
It was hard to pass guys. Yeah, it was a recipe
for disaster.
And everything, like you say, Mike, everything up to that point throughout the first half of the year was leading to this moment, and here we are at a crossroads. I'd never, even in the moment, like as mad as I was, even in the moment, I knew that it wasn't you turning me on purpose. As a race car driver, I'm looking at it and I'm going, he went in the corner a little higher, trying to get a better arc into the corner, because a shallow entry on the bottom there wasn't going to work. And he knew that, so he's trying. As I'm moving up the track, he's like, okay, if you're going to go up the track, I'm going to go up the track a little bit, and I'm going to get a better angle for the exit. And, you just got down in there and got loose up underneath me.
Well, the other thing, too, was, each lap, there was a little bit more.
We're trying harder,
a
deeper,
little bit more, a little bit deeper, a little bit more. And I'm getting the sense of urgency, because I'm like, man, I got to go. I better complete this now, because I know that if I can complete it now and get out in front of you, I have a better shot of holding you off for the longevity of the rest of that run, which was, 4 more laps?
Yeah.
And if you would have cleared me, if you would have gotten out there, it would have been over. So right. I knew, I was like, I got to get it done. I got to go.
So we get down in the corner. We get together. Cost you the win. Cost me the win.
I was going to say.
I knew that the wreck wasn't intentional, but it was when you would get out of the car and say, and I know how, now reading that article, I know why you did that, but when you get out of the car and say things that you would say, I'd go, ah! If it was just, hey, man, that was racing, I got in the corner too deep, but you wouldn't. You would get out of the car and go, I don't care. So what? He got wrecked.
So did you know in the moment, though, when the wreck happened and you got a chance to see it, that it wasn't purposeful?
Yeah.
So you read in the article, though, my mindset in that moment was if it was somebody else, if it was a teammate, or if it was somebody that I was actually kind of getting along with, there probably would have been 2 more inches given, right?
Right.
An extra given.
Sure.
But in this moment, there was no given.
That's right.
So it was kind of I got loose, yeah, whatever.
Right.
Like you said.
So there's a lot more Dale Jr. talking there than Kyle Busch, but I found the podcast really insightful, really interesting to hear some of the stories behind it. The events, I didn't realize, which it doesn't surprise me, I guess. Kyle Busch was getting death threats after this for the rest of the year. He had a bodyguard that would follow him.
Yeah, he won a race later in that year, and they shoved him into the car, into a like a chauffeur,
Yeah.
and it was all cops, and they got him the heck out of there, and he didn't understand why they were doing that
Yeah.
because nobody was telling him that dude, there's death threats. Somebody threatened to bring a gun and all this other stuff. So just crazy.
Right. Junior doesn't mention in the podcast at all, from what I heard, and certainly not in that clip, but he did make a comment which didn't help things much after the accident when he said that they're going to need security to get out of the track, which just riled up his fans a little bit more.
They do talk about that towards the end of the podcast.
Okay. I know that it's in Gluck's article on it, but yeah, it's there. But there's a lot of stuff around that. Like the build up for this, of course, was that Junior basically took Kyle's ride, and I'm doing that in quotes because we find out in the podcast and in the article a little bit, mostly in the podcast, that that's not what happened at all. That actually Casey Mears kind of took Kyle's ride because Junior was pushing for Kyle to stay and Casey Mears to go, but Jimmy Johnson and Jeff Gordon especially did not want that to go. They wanted Mears to be there instead, which you can see how that all worked out, in the long run.
Just an interesting crowd. I think the stuff, to me, the dump at Richmond isn't the interesting thing. It's everything before that is the fascinating part of the whole thing. The Kansas crash where Kyle left the track and they put Junior in the car.
Right.
That is interesting, and they talk about that in the podcast.
That was Texas, right?
Cool. Was it Texas?
That
I thought
was
it was
Texas.
Kansas or Texas.
Kansas was the one where Junior ran over Kyle.
Yes.
And Junior said he had a habit of running people over. That he ran Newman over a couple times doing the same thing.
Yeah, running the High Line in Atlanta. He talked about that a couple times.
But it was Texas because, see, this is the thing. This is that Kyle Busch in Texas, bad things happen at Texas. Well, at Texas, for him there, he left the track because he'd hurt his hand, and he said that he was, this is stuff we didn't hear until now. He was in the hauler, and nobody came and told him that the car's getting back out. He thought it was wrecked. His PR person said it's wrecked. They're not running again, so he left the track. Yep. And Junior got the call to come fill in, and a lot of people pointed at that as this was the moment that Junior got the ride, and Kyle got booted. But that's not how any of that happened.
No, it wasn't the moment. But Dale Jr. was definitely in his contemplation phase.
Oh yes, definitely.
And he said, "Man, this is my chance to drive a Hendrick motor."
Right.
And he said, "I want to know what that power feels like." And he one of the funny parts of the podcast is he talks about how skinny Kyle is and how he couldn't fit in Kyle's seat.
Yeah.
And he said he said it's probably the most dangerous thing he's done inside a race car because he said he was sitting sideways trying to drive that 5 car.
It is crazy to think about that when people fill in that these seats are form fitted to these drivers. Anytime it's somebody that's not the same, not that driver in the car, it's dangerous. Chances are because two bodies aren't generally the same.
Right.
So it's kind of crazy. And yeah, Junior significantly larger than Kyle was at the time. Kyle was a twig. I mean, basically.
Yeah, they're about the same size now.
Yeah, it's a little closer now.
Since Kyle got married, he's definitely filled out a little bit.
But I know at the end they took some questions from the fans, and it was really interesting. I'm a Kyle Busch fan. I love hearing that. He talked about a little bit that, people base their feelings on him from that, 30-second soundbite after the race when he's mad. But, if you really think about it, if you didn't win the race, you failed. And how do you feel at your job when you fail at something at your job? And here he is at his job. He failed. And now they stick a microphone in his face. And yes, different drivers handle it differently, and almost everybody handles it better than Kyle Busch does. But when you think about that, you start to realize, wait a minute, we're really judging these guys on this. But the beauty of our sport is that we do get to stick that microphone in their face right afterwards. The NFL, they go to the locker room and there's a rule that they have a certain amount of time before they can talk to media after the event. So it's, this is that you want that being in the sport like we are, and then you get that opportunity and you get to see these drivers when they're fired up. I mean, this guy just drove 200 miles an hour, risked his life for 3 hours, and now you're sticking a microphone in his face. So, I mean, I don't know. Don't get me wrong. I'm not defending him. Kyle comes off as a whiner a lot. He's a lot better now than he used to be. He still has his moments.
Yeah, Kyle's Kyle, and he's got his personality, and, the one thing about Kyle is he's not going to change his outlook on things just because you think he should.
Right.
He's going to do what he wants.
Right.
So you got to kind of respect him on one hand because, I like to feel like I do that myself. I don't care what people think about a lot of things sometimes, and I
Right.
say some stuff on the podcast from time to time that people might not like to hear, but that's fine.
Right.
And that's just, don't change who you are, and we don't like. I mean, Kyle rubs me the wrong way 9 times out of 10, but heck, I respect Kyle for being one heck of a race car driver, and sometimes he does say some things that could get your attention, and he does say
Yeah.
the right thing every once in a while. So just keep being you, man. Don't ever change. And
Right.
just because people don't like it doesn't mean you're wrong.
Right.
You know?
I sympathize with him because I know, put in that situation, I would say some stupid stuff too, and I would probably come across as a whiner. That's just,
I think most of us would.
right. Exactly. It's just think of the pressure. One thing we've talked about on the podcast too, and we talked about it not too recently, is Kyle, whether he's comfortable playing the villain role or not.
He's not.
Yeah,
I don't
no,
think.
he's not.
No, he's not.
He talks about it a little in the podcast. I won't spoil much of it. Definitely check out the Dale Jr. download if you haven't. There's a link
The
to it.
number 1 downloaded sports podcast.
That's awesome.
They passed us, Eric.
Yeah.
We were trending.
We were
there
close,
for-
yeah.
Yeah.
Close. Check it out. Definitely. It's worth a listen. It's great. It's the thing with Junior's podcast, and James and I were talking about this earlier today. Junior's podcast, you got to get through. Junior kind of rambles a little bit and stuff, but I really like it because he doesn't hold back. He shares a lot of inside baseball stuff, and if you really want to know the inside stories, I mean, the podcast where he talked about his first win at Texas and how his dad sticks his head in the window, and everybody, you see the video and it's like, oh, Dale's leaning in there and congratulating Junior, and no, he was leaning in there and telling him you got to get your own ride home because the jet's leaving and you're stuck here with media. It's that type of stuff that you learn on the podcast. And he talked about the fact that that Kyle, they've been talking to Kyle about starting his own podcast as well. I hope he does it, because I think that's one thing that would really benefit Kyle, is for people to see more of his off the track personality. I mean, I don't know Kyle from anybody. I've never actually met him. I've kind of interacted with him at the track, but not much. But even I saw on pit road before the truck race at Michigan, him playing with Brexton and Samantha before the race started, and got to see that personality a little bit. And we see it a lot in his social media. I think Samantha's really helped a lot with that to get that out there. And I'd love to see him do a podcast where he can actually explain himself a little bit on this stuff, and make people see it from his point of view a little bit. And even if people hate him, I think they'll listen, because they'll listen just to hate on him from the podcast. So.
What do they call Dale Jr. and Kyle Busch fans who like both? They called them unicorns.
Unicorns,
That made me laugh. I was like, yeah, that person does not exist.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I must be a unicorn because I like both of them. So, but
Yeah.
I respect them all. I respect all the guys in the garage for sure. There are some that I like more than others. There are some that I really am not a fan of at all. But
I think I've come, I think part of that too is getting older and watching these guys drive for so long.
Right.
When I'm in my early 20s and Kyle Busch is doing something, it's easy for me to snap at him and call him a whiner or whatever. But now that I've been watching him for so long and maybe a little older, and I just don't have that fire it's like, he's Kyle. I mean, I like a lot of the guys in the garage. Kyle doesn't really bother me all that much.
right.
I
mean, I like it when he says stupid stuff, because it gives, it makes the story more interesting. We need people like Kyle Busch out there.
Yeah, we need people of all types. We need the Kyle Larson type personalities, and he usually doesn't ruffle too many feathers, but we also need
the guys that do.
Yeah, and we need Denny Hamlins and Chase Elliott's. We need guys who are who they are.
Last year I think Denny Hamlin did everything wrong in that situation with Chase Elliott last year. Everything, like anything he could do wrong, he did wrong in that. But I loved it.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah.
I mean, think of how much we got to talk about that afterwards. It was awesome. So
yeah, we had a period in NASCAR where a lot of the drivers acted a lot of the same, and they didn't really differentiate themselves. But I think we got a good mix of personalities now. It's a good crop.
Looks like Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch are rubbing fenders a little bit.
Are you watching the race too?
I'm not watching it. Is it on? Is it on TV?
If you go to fanschoice.tv,
is it free, or do you have to pay for it?
I have it pulled up. I'm watching it right now.
Okay.
Denny Hamlin just took the lead.
I'll have to check that out.
They are 13 laps into 200, and it is Denny Hamlin and Kyle Busch up front. Timothy Peters is third. One of the fun ones, Ty Gibbs, Joe Gibbs' grandson, he's ninth. So
Nice.
yeah, keep an eye on it. It's actually, there's a lot of side by side racing. It's pretty interesting. They're and for those who are listening who probably aren't going to get to watch this race live, we're talking about the Denny Hamlin short track showdown at Langley Speedway tonight. So a little charity benefit that Denny's putting on.
I just saw it on Twitter, so now I got it up. Now I will not pay attention. I don't even have the show notes aren't even on my screen anymore, James. I'm watching the race.
Yeah, I have the little screen over in the corner. I said I just want to watch and see a little bit of the short track showdown while I'm sitting here. So
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do that too.
hey, we're just doing our journalistic duty. We need to let the people know what's going on.
Exactly. And I was going to mention, you mentioned journalism. That was one of the things I was going to say. I think that's affected the way I've, come to respect the drivers and everything, is being in the field of journalism. I've been doing this for 10 years prior to doing the NASCAR stuff. And, you kind of learn to be more impartial and not pick favorites. I watch a lot of sports where I'm not cheering for a specific team. I'm just, watching it and enjoying the whole spectacle of it. And some people prefer to have somebody that they're cheering for specifically. I kind of prefer just to watch it. And honestly, if you're sitting with me during a race, I'm almost always cheering for the guy in second place. I just want to see him come back and get the win and have an interesting battle at the end. So I'm not usually cheering for the guy out front. So that takes care of that. Anything else we want to talk about with the podcast, or any other news, James, that I missed?
I think we covered it for the week, man. It got busy there on Monday.
I know. I feel like I forgot something because I feel like there was more, but I think we hit it all. I guess the big NASCAR news was the Mustang thing, big again in quotes.
Yeah,
so. All right, so we are going to Richmond Raceway this weekend. That's right. They changed
no
the name.
international anymore.
Yes.
We're just local now.
And we are racing Saturday night once again at Richmond. We are not running on Sunday, so that's kind of neat. I like the fact that I think we're doing one night race and one day race there this year. I like the fact that they're not both the same. It's to the Toyota Owners 400 at Richmond. For those going to the track, there's going to be a little bit of a construction zone there because they're working on some of their amenities and things that they're going to have ready for the the fall race. What are our expectations for Richmond? It's been not quite as spectacular lately. Does the night race, the fact that it's night again, add anything to that, James, or is it going to be? I mean, are we expecting a good race?
I think day racing there's better than the night racing. Although I do like that, we get that night race earlier in the season with Richmond, but
yeah. Hopefully it's a little warmer this weekend. I think everybody would be happy about that.
What was the last memorable Richmond race? I think it was a rain out, but it was the Kyle Busch Carl Edwards race.
Yeah, it's been a while.
That's been a couple of years. 2016, I think that was now. So yeah, Richmond usually puts on a pretty good show, but not as of late. It's been kind of a stinker.
Yeah. Let's see. There was something else I wanted to say, but let's move into our picks. James, you get the first pick this week because I picked first last week. So who are you going with for Richmond?
Should I just take Kyle and see if he gets the three-peat?
You can take him because I'm not actually going to pick Kyle, so you're not even stealing him from me.
Man, it's between him and Denny Hamlin. I'll ride the Kyle train.
All right.
I'll go Kyle Busch.
Well, then I'm taking the other one because that's who I was going to pick, is Denny Hamlin.
Yeah, I should.
I think Hamlin's coming off the showdown. He's going to have. He always runs well. It's going to be those two. Yeah. So.
The only thing that Denny has an edge on in Kyle is the laps led. Other than that, they're very, very similar statistics-wise.
Yeah.
Between the two of them.
So if I win this week, it's 3 in a row.
That's 3 in a row.
I know that hasn't happened yet in the podcast. So
that's a Kevin Harvick. If I were you, I would have kept riding Kyle.
Nah, I don't think so. He's not going to do 3 in a row. Not going to happen.
I never know.
Not going to happen.
You never know. He's got that hot streak, man.
Yeah. Let's see. I got a dark horse pick. I'm going to go Eric Almirola as my dark horse pick.
Yeah, I like that pick.
I mean, I have no idea. I mean, Richmond, he doesn't have a bad average at Richmond.
Yeah,
he's 14th.
Much lesser equipment than he's in now.
Yeah, so I mean...
every time you look at his stats, you got to remember where he's come from to what he is now.
Right.
And if that's what he was doing then yeah, he should be pretty good.
Yeah. Who do you got for dark horse?
Can I pick Casey Kane?
Yeah, Casey Kane's definitely a dark horse.
Yeah, I was eyeballing Casey Kane from the get-go, so I'll take Casey.
Okay. All right, so we have the Toyota Owners 400 is Saturday at 6:30 p.m. The race goes on the air on Fox at 6 p.m. 300 miles, 400 laps. Let's see. The Xfinity Series are also in action this weekend for the Toyota Care 250. That is Friday night, race at 7 p.m. on the air, Fox Sports 1 at 6:30 p.m. The Truck Series is off this weekend.
I am so glad that we have a Saturday night race. I can't even tell you.
I'm pretty excited about it too. We have family stuff going on Sunday, and I
know.
thought I was going to miss it.
Every weekend, there's so much going on right now, and I'm so thankful that I can turn on the race.
So here's my behind the scenes of my family life here. So last weekend we talked about, for those who are not in the Michigan area, we had anybody in the Midwest probably dealt with this. We had snow and ice and just crap last weekend.
It was so bad. It was the weirdest weather I've ever experienced.
So last weekend we had a family gathering planned on Sunday at the in-laws' house, and it snowed out. So we bailed on that, and it got pushed to this weekend. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Talladega is coming. It's Talladega weekend again. Every time I have to go there for Talladega, and it's fine. Don't get me wrong. I love hanging out with the family. It's great. But Talladega is a race I like to watch live. And they'll usually, a lot of times it'll be on the TV there, and I can't sit, either I sit in front of the TV and watch it, or I have to leave the room and try to avoid it all day, and everybody screws with me and says, oh, so-and-so just crashed and whatever. So I was bummed, and it's like, oh no, it's Richmond this weekend. Good. Richmond's no biggie. I can, if it's on TV, whatever. And then I'm like, oh, it's Saturday night, even better. But Saturday is my wife's birthday.
Oh no, isn't it birthday week?
And
doesn't Kay do a birthday week?
Yeah, she hasn't. She starts her official birthday celebration tomorrow. So anyway, so it's her birthday night. I have to work.
So great.
I have to work tomorrow all day, and I have to work tomorrow night, and then I have to work during the day Saturday. So Saturday night is going to be birthday stuff. So I may not get to watch the race till Sunday anyway.
Oh man.
But she certainly, don't get me wrong, there's no debate. Kay comes way before NASCAR, especially with all the crap that she puts up with me on. We just found out that there's she's got a work thing that I was excited about going to, and it just so happens it is Michigan weekend, so I will not be at it. I will be at Michigan for the Cup race. So the other thing I wanted to mention is I didn't even tell you this yet, James. This week started using YouTube TV. I'm cutting the cord, sort of. I'm still having all the channels because YouTube TV is available in my area now, and I can get the local channels, which was the big downfall. We were talking about this before. How can we get the DVR and all that stuff? YouTube TV is perfect. It does everything for me. So right now I'm trying it out. I still have Charter right now through the weekend, and if everything goes well with YouTube TV, I'm bailing on Charter, going YouTube TV from here forward, which is awesome because I have the race everywhere. I have everything, my TV everywhere, because it's on my iPhone, it's on my iPad, or on my Apple TV. So I'm excited. It's pretty nice. So far I've liked it.
I've explored the YouTube TV route, but I still haven't bit the bullet there.
It's $40 a month, so but it's half of what I'm paying for cable right now. So it's gonna be a bonus. So restart.
Yeah, let me know how it goes.
29 laps into the Denny Hamlin short track showdown.
I just got the HBO Now going for the free trial. Yes, I love the HBO Now. So that has taken me further away from sports, which is not a good thing.
Do you watch Silicon Valley? I know this is not NASCAR.
I have not. No. I did watch. Just to bring it back to sports entertainment, I watched the Andre the Giant documentary.
Oh, okay.
And man, it was really good. Anyway.
I highly recommend Silicon Valley just for anybody out there. It's a great show, awesome show. So definitely get into that. I am going to get HBO Now again here soon because the new season is out. I'm waiting for it to be over so I can binge watch it. But that's what I'm going to be diving in on. I love that show, and this is the last season, I believe.
Fantastic.
So, yes. Back to NASCAR. James, you want to talk about the Fantasy League at all? I, again, didn't look at the results this week.
I don't feel comfortable talking about the Fantasy League because I don't want to sound braggadocious, but
oh God,
I am.
Did Todd pick new picks this week, or did he still?
I think he did. I don't know. I didn't double check, but I caught him a little bit more this week, and then my other league I'm in, I have 4 wins, and nobody else has more than 1, so I'm doing fairly good. So there, I guess I did go braggadocious. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, you did.
That's okay.
You did.
Yeah, doing good though. I'm feeling. And that being said, I'm going to fall on my face this week, so we'll see.
I am going to pick my
Talladega's
Texas.
coming, though. Talladega is coming.
God, I'm third. Terrible.
Talladega is always good for me at a solid 150 points.
Yeah.
And it's always really bad.
Yeah,
Just
you're really close to Todd. You're only 55 points behind him.
No, I'm chipping away at that son of a gun.
I'm 176 behind you.
I'm going to catch him before too long, I hope. Trying.
I'm so bad at fantasy. So bad at it.
Oh, no, this is the only fantasy thing I do anymore, and it frustrates me to no end. I don't know why I do it.
All right. Let's see. James, if they want to find you during the week, how can they find you on social media?
At James Cush on Twitter.
You can find me at TSuperspeedway on Twitter. You can find the podcast on Facebook at facebook.com/thesuperspeedway. I will drop a little hint here. There will probably be a post on Facebook this week. If not, we'll talk about it next week. We are going to start a Patreon page. I'm not asking for much from anybody. Obviously, if you like what we're doing, you want to support us a little bit, we'd love for you to become a Patreon. Right now, the tiers aren't there. I haven't figured all that out yet, but that is coming. So watch for that if you want to support us. Hopefully, get us to some more races. Maybe at least just make it worth doing this, because we just did our taxes here, and I know how much I spent on the podcast last year. So Patreon is a little necessary. So we'd appreciate it if you guys would sign on and become a Patreon. But otherwise, we're not going to charge for the podcast or anything like that. We'll keep doing the stuff that we've been doing, and we hope you enjoy it. You can find more on the podcast at www.thesuperspeedway.com. We post the show notes there, and whatever else we can post up. I almost put a story up today, but did not have the time to get it together. You can find the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, and SoundCloud, soon to be a few more locations as well. However you found us today, we hope you subscribe and continue to follow along and listen and watch, or not watch. We don't have watching availability yet. I'm working on it. That was actually something I thought about doing this year, but just couldn't pull it together. So watch for that in the future, hopefully, too. That would be kind of cool. Just watching there was just a wreck at the Denny Hamlin Short Track Showdown, so I'm checking that out. Anything else, James?
No, I think that's about it. I apologize for anybody who does follow us on Twitter who saw I was super into the Boston Marathon on Monday, and I just found it fascinating that.
Well, we haven't talked about it on the podcast, but you're doing a marathon this year.
Yeah, that's coming up soon. So,
we're right around our normal time, James. Where are you doing that at? What's the deal on that?
So I'm
not to throw you under the bus here right at the last minute without any preparation.
That's fine. So I signed up for a marathon a couple of months ago, and been training hard for it. And on Memorial Weekend, May 26th, I'm gonna run a marathon from Charlevoix, Michigan, all the way to Harbor Springs. So
that's crazy.
There's a little bay up there, Little Traverse Bay, and I'm going to go all the way around the bay. And been going up there my whole life for camping and things, and just thought, man, that would be an awesome opportunity to do that. So once I get past that marathon, I think some things will open up here for me a little bit. But it's definitely been it's been an experience so far that has just been I've been loving every minute of it. And my wife, who tolerates me for all the other extracurricular things that I do, she let me take on this challenge. So it's been good. Eric's been working with me on the podcast. Eric has been doing even more heavy lifting. I've just been running and working, really, and doing dad stuff. So
I have mad respect for you, man. I can't even imagine.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. It's been grueling, but I listened to just another one of our many tangents today. Marty Smith's America. He has a podcast now, and he talked about his experience.
How do you get anything done with Marty Smith having a podcast?
I know. He's got two of them, which is crazy.
For those of you who don't know, James is a giant Marty Smith fan.
Big Marty Smith fan.
I love Marty Smith too, but
I should be a bigger Dale Jr. fan because I feel like they're the same person.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so Marty has. So I listen to these podcasts at work, but Marty talked about his experience running the Boston Marathon and what it meant to him. He ran the year after the bombing.
Okay.
And just a really cool story. But he talked about his training a little bit, and that's obviously the stage that I'm in, and just he had this great line about the road looks different to the man who walks it, and he's so right. It's been just. I guess I was so into the Boston Marathon because I can relate to all those runners. They were running in the cold and the wind, and
right.
going through.
Yeah,
this
you couldn't have had a better year to prepare for a marathon.
Yeah,
Jeez.
especially and the girl from Michigan won the dang thing. So if that goes to show you anything,
She was from Charlevoix, wasn't she?
Yeah, she lives in Charlevoix.
Yeah.
So yeah,
You're going to be competing against her.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't know if she'll be running this one, but yeah, Des Linden from Charlevoix. But people from Michigan are tough, man. They go out there and in the wind and the rain and the freezing temperatures. People are getting pneumonia out there, and it was just fascinating. But
well, if you follow James on social media, he posts sometimes his routes and stuff on. I think you do that on Instagram, generally.
Yeah, I do it on Instagram. Yeah, I do my routes sometimes, and I've been doing some of my training stuff on there. So yeah,
I'm just fascinated every time he posts it. And I see how far he's running. I'll look at his route, and it's like he'll backtrack over stuff. It's like, dude, you could have just turned there and not. You didn't have to run that twice, straight. Man.
Yeah, you could have done a quick short lap there.
You're taking the most inefficient route to get back where you started, man. I just sit on the couch and I'm in the same spot. I don't have to.
It's yeah, all about getting those dang miles. I got a long one this weekend, but yeah, I'll keep everybody posted on when it gets a little bit closer. I got about a month to go, and then yeah,
we'll do a big marathon follow-up special on the podcast for
you. There you go. We'll talk racing. It'll be a little different form of racing. Although for me, it's not really racing; it's surviving.
Right. So is this something you're going to do afterwards, James? Do you want to do more marathons, or just see how this one goes first, or what?
I want to see how this feels.
Okay.
I really love the journey that it's been. The race itself might be a whole different beast, but yeah, the everything that's gone into it's been pretty. It's weird. People think I'm crazy, but I tell them it's my golf game right now.
Yeah.
Play golf. People play video games. This is my hobby, and I just have fallen in love with it over the past few years. And yeah,
it's a nice, healthy hobby.
Yeah, hopefully.
I wish my hobbies were a little healthier.
Yeah, hopefully it doesn't come back to haunt me someday. But so far it's been good. So far so good.
Awesome. Well, good luck with that, James.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
I think that is it. We'll wrap things up. We'll go to. Yeah.
Sign up.
There we go. Head to Richmond this weekend for the Toyota Owners 400, and we will be back next week to discuss it. Until then, everybody, let's go racing.